Hey, what's going on, everybody? I want to encourage women during this election who have not voted yet, obviously. And some disturbing reports have come that a lot of Republican women, want to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. But let me structure this properly. There are some reports that there are some married, I should say, married women who happen to be of the Republican persuasion, right? And their husbands want to vote for Donald Trump, but they know or they're aware or they suspect that their wives want to vote for Vice President Kamala Harris. And so when posters go to the door, when people call to, get in what we call a survey, they're sort of being steered and blocked. So that report has come out. And so just wanted to share that with you in case you did not know. And it could be happening in other households as well. I just know for a fact that it's happening a lot with a lot of Republican women. That's where this reporting is coming out of. I'm not going to give you the source, all right, because I don't need trolls in here saying blah blah blah. But just trust me on this. If you've been watching some of my feed and posting, you know exactly where some of this is coming from. And this is true. So it's so true that there is a solution, right? There is a solution. So what has happened, and that's why I'm on here, is that the solution to it is that women are fighting back, right? Women are fighting back because they're using post-its. Put this over here like this. They're using these post-its, right? And they're putting these, and I'm encouraging you all to do this. They're putting these in places where only women should see them. For instance, I'll tell you what it says in case you didn't see it. It says, no one will know who you vote for. Vote Harris for women's rights. And so what that means is, so women are posting those in restrooms, like in the mirrors and in the stalls in the bathrooms and in restaurants and in women's restaurants in the bathroom and restrooms, places where women will see it, right? Women who are forward thinking, right? So and I didn't mention a lot of this when I talked about why we should vote for Vice President Kamala Harris over former President Donald Trump. I sort of touched on women's rights and abortion, and in that particular video, I talked about that if she gets the House of Representatives and she gets the Senate, right? If she gets the majority in both of those, then she'll be able to codify Roe versus Wade, right? So that means that women have to get out and vote in overwhelming numbers because a lot of white men are falling prey to the grievances that Donald Trump is trying to portray in our society to try and split the vote, split households, as well as split the country down the middle. So is it working? Unfortunately, fear is a good motivator to drive people to the polls. But I think that in this particular election, as we've seen in the past two midterm elections, that Republicans, even in your strongholds, such as what took place in St. Louis, or was it just Missouri? I think it was St. Louis, wasn't it? No, was it St. Louis or Missouri? But anyway, so but in St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken, and also in Kansas, where women's rights were put on the ballot for the people to decide, and those are red states, right? Well, the people in those states, right, Republican, voted overwhelmingly to support women's rights. And so I want to encourage women, right, to get out and vote for Kamala Harris. So the question comes as to, abortion, right? You cannot look at this as an abortion issue. That is let me choose my language carefully here because I'm not on the radio. And by the way, shout out to the hundreds of thousands of you all who listen to my radio show, Real Gospel, around the country and around the world. just I love you all. Just thank you so much. This is a new space for me with my TV show coming out, and then this podcasting that God has brought me to talk to you all, the people. So for those of you all, and I'll know at some point when it reaches those people, because they'll start commenting on my various social media platforms and letting me know where you actually hear my radio show at, in what city. Make sure you let me know, and I'll shout you out from time to time. But anyway, getting back to this, women's rights. Women's rights are more than abortion when it comes to health care and when it comes to a woman's right to choose. The government should not have a say over how a woman should be able to make a decision when it comes to her personal health. Let me say that again. It is more than just women's rights and women's inability to be able to choose. It is the fact that that right, that decision is being taken away from you all. It is being taken away from you all. So even if you are a hard, if you are a leaning, hard, ruby red, Bible thumping, you get up and you pray 10 times a day, and you can quote scripture from Genesis all the way to Revelation, and you have your own personal pipeline into God, and you're one of those super duper Christians, right? You still have to have compassion and understand that thank you, Holy Spirit. So what you're in turn doing is you're using your faith and you're pushing your faith onto people who may not necessarily believe in what you believe. Because at the center of this is the far right, which is the Christian right, who pushed this narrative for so many years. And let's be honest, they pushed it, and I didn't come prepared to go into a deep history lesson, but this was pushed way back, I want to say starting in the 70s, 80s, Jerry Falwell, maybe some of those guys, in that bracket of time. They used abortion as a way to mobilize the religious sect of voters, because most people at that time, especially in the Republican Party, were not voting in terms of how they viewed abortion wasn't an issue until they made it one, right? So once Donald Trump was able to put those three Supreme Court justices on the bench, right, and their sole purpose was to overturn Roe v. Wade, because they were hand selected by the Heritage Foundation. Okay, Google all this. I don't do this just to sit here and talk to you. You see what I'm saying? You can verify the things that I'm saying to you. This is what I do for a living. So I want you to understand this. I'm not just, I've done the research. This is part of what I do and the spirit that I operate in some instances. So all I'm doing is sharing this information to you so that you can cut through some of the chase and some of the noise. So if you watch Fox News all day and listen to right-wing Republican talk radio all day, this is new to you. This is all new to you, because in that ecosphere that y'all operate in, it's all regurgitation back and forth, the same thing. It's all talking points. So I just wanted to say that. So for some of you all, you're hearing this for the very first time. All you hear is the word abortion. And guess what? It is men driving the conversation about abortion, which leads me to, thank you, Holy Spirit. This issue will devastate your family, right? If you are a Bible-thumping Christian, right, and you have kids or grandkids, right, they need to be able to have access to health care and doctors and facilities that can operate freely without being, especially when you're talking about doctors and nurses, being able to operate freely in the area of women's health without fear of being persecuted or going to jail, or should I say prosecuted and persecuted and going to jail, if it comes to the point where they have to make a decision based upon your health, your livelihood, or the potential baby or the baby that you might be carrying. That's a gray area. That's a gray area. And that area, just in my opinion alone, should only be made by a woman, her family, her doctor, and their clergy, if that's the route, if they're in church or whatever faith they belong to. That's my thing. So they may not necessarily be Christian, right? They could be Muslim. They could be they could worship Buddha. It shouldn't matter. What should matter is that those individuals are able to make their own healthcare decisions without worrying that the government is going to come in and lock them up, lock the doctor up, and also, anyone else that had anything to do with that individual or that woman trying to receive proper health care. In the state of Tennessee, there are women, because the neighboring states do not offer these particular services for women, whom have had to get in their car and drive to other states to receive the proper health care that they need. That's ridiculous in 2024. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous to impose those types of rules on individuals' rights and freedoms, especially coming from a political party, whom used to pride themselves on freedom and liberty and keep the government out of my life and out of my business and et cetera, et cetera. So that's all I'm saying to you. So these sticky notes are going out all over the place. If you haven't seen one, then jump into it, jump into the fight, jump into the mix of things. And they just simply say, no one will know who you vote for, right? That's a message to women. Even if you're married to or you're dating someone who is a diehard Trump supporter, at this point, there are people who are informed and there are people who are ill-informed, and in those instances, people who are very well informed, who know better than to vote for Donald Trump because of the fact that he is a traitor to the country, right? We'll just leave it there. I keep saying I'll leave it there, but there's just so many reasons. But to me, that's one of the number one reasons. So they like that. Authoritism. I can't even pronounce the word right now. I'm tongue-tied, but it'll come back to me. That's the difference for you when you're going live, right? If you mispronounce a word, everybody. But in the comment sections, just put that word in there, and I'll come back and I'll like it, because right now I've got a lot that I'm trying to process, and I'm getting used to being able to talk to you all like this, because I'm used to talking on the radio behind the microphone. And I had a program director years ago named Terry Fox out of Chicago, and he used to say all the time, get it in 60 seconds. Whatever you have to say when you're doing your breaks, get it in 60 seconds. But Terry, this is just the opposite. I'm supposed to talk longer on here, and sometimes I find myself grasping at the right words and the right phrases to say, so I'm getting used to this. So please bear with me, y'all. So anyway, by the way, like, share, and subscribe, please, by all means, please do those things. And so I just want to encourage everybody. I want you all to be encouraged. All is not lost. All is not lost. You know what? I saw this on the news, and I said, you know what? That is such a great idea. That is such a great idea to empower women. When you go to, and I've already early voted, right? You've seen that. You've seen my live when I went live and I voted, right? So no one's going to know who you voted for when you go into that booth. It's just you and that machine, right? You go in there, you listen to the rhetoric from your significant other, whoever it is, saying all that stuff about Trump and how he's, whatever. I'm not going to try and get in people's heads, but what I will say is when you go into that booth, right, you know that you can push that lever for Kamala Harris. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Push that button. Yeah, vote blue, up and down the ballot. Because, see, this nonsense has to stop. This nonsense where Donald Trump refuses to do another debate with Kamala Harris. It's too late now. This nonsense where he only goes on friendly media. This is what I was talking about when I went live before, and I was trying to describe the difference between why there's mis and disinformation, purposely, I might add, on the Republican end, and then the rest of the country, while the country is divided, when the rest of us know that he's been indicted several times for crimes. Judge Cannon in Florida, that's a disgrace. What happened with those federal charges there, because we know that Donald Trump had those classified documents in his bathroom and all over the place and all over the house. He refused to give them back. And now we find out that he's been talking and having conversations with Vladimir Putin and all this stuff off and on. So the list goes on. We just, I don't want to get tied up into that because it's just so many things. But that's my point. If you watch Fox News, if you listen to right-wing media, then you're not going to hear all that. But all that stuff is true. And the reason for that is because they're in the tank for Donald Trump. Remember, the big lie is that he won the last election. That's the big lie. So who helped support the big lie? Well, it was Fox News. It was Rush Limbaugh. It was Sean Hannity. It was that entire network, right? Decided that they wanted to prop up Donald Trump because they were more afraid of his rants and the fact that he might return to power and what he might do than actually telling you all who are supposed to be the viewers the truth. And that's why they also got sued for over $1 billion because of what they did with Rudy Giuliani and Smartmatic and those voting machines. And so all this is almost, is that a word? Googleable? Is that a word? Googleable? If it is, drop it in the comments and spell that for me so I can use that. I'm just telling you. But that's where we are. And so since I have time to unpack it, I'm going to go ahead and unpack this right now. Because most people, especially if you're black, you don't understand how media works, especially in radio. So let me put it to you this way, right? So within the industry, within radio and talk radio, so I'm known as a super producer, right? I've produced money talk shows, I produce sports talk shows, I produce What's the 411 with Sharon Kay? That's a talk show that covers everything. In its totality, in terms of talk programming, I've co-produced and produced about 8 or 9. Music-wise, I started out with a guy by the name of Tom Joyner. I'm not sure if some of you remember him, but he used to call himself the Fly Jock. So I was an affiliate producer for him. And I'm not going to get into what all that means, but if you know how syndication works, then if you've heard of Steve Harvey and Ricky Smiley, Tom Joyner was before all those people. He sort of paved the way for those of us who are syndicated in radio now. So when I worked in commercial radio, I'm one of the few people who can say that I've actually worked in commercial radio as well as public radio. I'm in public radio now. There's a huge difference, okay? So, and I've also worked across genres. So it's not just hip hop and R&B. It's not just pop music, Celine Dion and Britney Spears and all those people, but also jazz and some of everything. So I'm saying all that so that you know that I'm not one-track minded. I learned how to gather news and information and how to produce award-winning, I didn't throw that in there, right? Award-winning talk shows. And when I say talk shows, I don't mean, this is especially for my black community. When I say talk shows, I don't mean music shows like, or if you listen to Steve Harvey, where you hear music and then in between the songs, he starts talking about stuff. Sometimes it's relevant stuff. Sometimes it's buffoonery. Sometimes it's the dude who pranks people with phone calls. You know what I'm saying? That's you know, that is what they give black people. Okay, I need you to understand this. So, and trust me, I'm still here. All right, I'm just unpacking some stuff so that we understand why things are sort of the way they are in this realm, in this space and time that we find ourselves in 2024. Okay, bear with me. So, in black radio, when I first began producing a talk show, right, radio talk show, there was no framework as to how you produce a talk show for me. I looked around, I searched the dial, I said, where are the black talk shows? Black talk show means that you talk for the entire time, just like we're doing now. This could be considered sort of black talk, but I'm talking to everybody, right? So there's no music here, even though you hear it in the background. Black talk shows, and I think on Sirius XM, there's just one. Urban View, I think that's what it is. And so, yeah, so that's black talk. Well, you're constantly being able to talk about money, right? Where do black people go? Where do we go when we want to have discussions about money and finance and politics and our community and things that matter to us? On the local level, you may have a few, right? AM here, AM there, and it's local, it's low power. You might have some of those. But on a national scale, I was producing a talk show for a major market, right? Small market depending on television, but radio is in between. It's major market, right? So I had to go somewhere because I needed somewhere to learn how to take the show that I was producing to the next level. So in turn, I had to turn to, at that time, Rush Limbaugh. He was on the radio. And what I was listening for as I was listening to his show, how do you go in and out of breaks? Sound effects. How is the show ran? Just all the things as a producer that I needed to understand how to do, because I heard some of this on Tom Joyner, but Tom Joyner didn't go long and hard enough, even though he tried to do that. The company at that time that I was working for, which was Cumulus Media, they made that decision, right? When they bought up all the radio stations around the country, and they put Tom Joyner on and in mornings, syndicating him, right? And got rid of all the local morning show people. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. Trust me, I have stories, y'all. So my point is, and I'm still here, I'm just explaining some things. And so what ends up happening is throughout the country, just like you listen to Steve Harvey, right? Steve Harvey lives where? Probably in California? Probably. So if he's in California and you are wherever you are and you're listening to him, then that's what syndication is. And when it comes to black syndication, there's no talk. None. Now, when you get to the white stations, right? Right next door to where I was producing Tom Joyner, which was owned by Cumulus Media. And I love Cumulus Media. I'm not saying anything negative about them. This is how they did business, right? But right next door was a rock station / mix type of 40s, whatever you want to call it, right? They had music. But next door to that was a talk radio station that was owned by the same company, right? Complete with talk studio seats for guests who want to come in, complete with another separate studio just for the producer. And so they got to talk all day, all night, 24/7 about money, about politics, about whatever they wanted to talk about. They had a radio station for news and information, and then they had another radio station that was for music. So I learned very quickly early on that when it comes to the black community, the corporations and the company, there's a term that they use: keep them dancing and dumb. That's how they feel about the black community. They want to keep us dancing and dumb. So that's why no matter when you listen to the radio, if you listen to the radio, if you're not using Spotify and Apple Music and you're downloading and you're streaming it in your vehicle through your phone, whatever it is, but when you listen to the radio, when you listen to black radio stations, you don't hear talk. You hear talk and comments sprinkled into music, which again, they have to compete with other black radio stations for that's where the music comes in. So I'm going to leave it there because I could go really deep into that and explain. Well, I think you understand now the impact that it has had on our communities and why, despite all those efforts, we still have these issues that plague our community. So I won't go there. But this is why when it comes to Republicans, why they're so tunnel vision, or when it comes to hearing, they hear one message because that message is spread on all those channels, all those networks, and it's the same message that goes out to all of them. So if you're watching Fox News, if you're listening to the radio and you're listening to the Republican shows, all of them get their information from one source and is funneled via some fax machine or email, whatever it is, and they all stay on the same page, same message, right? That's why Donald Trump has the hold that he has on half the country, because those companies refuse to tell you all, who are the viewers and listeners, the truth. My proof into this, which is why when Donald Trump lost to Joe Biden in the last election, Trump got mad at Fox News. All this is Googleable, y'all. That's why he got mad at them for calling the election early, right? That's why Rudy Giuliani and the rest of them cats got sued for what they said about those voting machines, right? I think it's Smartmatic, whatever it is, but they got sued for over $1 billion because they what's the word I'm looking for here? Defamation. They got sued for the defamation of character on those machines. And still right now, you have people who are probably watching this right now who are going to say, well, no, he didn't really lose. Really? Okay. But my point is, that's why y'all have to help stand up and put Vice President Kamala Harris into the Oval Office, because it is that kind of buffoonery and that kind of trickery that they are doing to seize power. Seize power. That's what this is all about, right? So if Donald Trump put those 3 Supreme Court justices on the bench the last time he's in office, please understand that there are Clarence Thomas. Who else is on that? Look, there are 2 or 3 other Supreme Court justices that if Donald Trump should win, they're going to retire. And here's why. They're going to retire because they want to make sure that the way Republicans do things and the power that they have stays in check. That's the best way I can put it. So if 3 more of them retire, now you're up to about 6 Republican, and when I say 6, I mean like right-leaning Republicans. If you think that getting rid of or finding verbal or word technicalities in what is supposed to be settled law, if you can go back in and you can have someone tweak a word here or tweak a word there or change the meaning of a definition to make it seem whatever you want it to seem like it should sound like, so that you can overturn Roe v. Wade after you said in your confirmation hearings, right, that it was settled law. If you could do that once you get to the bench, imagine what 6 of them would do with power, right? They can't retire, so they're there for life. Those are lifetime appointments. So that being the case, do you understand, women, the direction that the United States will head in as a nation? And do you understand, pocketbook-wise, what this is going to do to your family? Because if you get pregnant and you cannot, and I got to be careful here because I'm not condoning, that's not what I'm saying. This has got nothing to do with me condoning being for or against abortion. But what I'm saying here is, let me rephrase what I'm about to say. If you can't control as a woman when you decide to plan to have your family, right, then what that means is it can possibly keep you in a state of poverty if you end up having a family or a kid before you are ready, right? Kid or kids. That impacts you economically, right? Childcare, right? Food, things like that come along with having to raise a child. And those of you who have been mothers, and those of you who have been fathers, and those of you who are or who are planning on, you know exactly what I mean. So if you can't work, right, because you have to stay home with your kid, then that impacts your hopes, your dreams, your aspirations, right? Not only that, but now you're also dealing with a Republican Party that won't even extend the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare. So they really don't care if you have health care or not, right? So you have a child or 2 or more. They really don't want to give you health care. They don't want to give you a raise on any kind of job. So you're just sort of stuck in this place where you become, it's like low slave work labor. You're trapped into that, or forced into that system, which is what this is really about. So anyway, I could go really, really deep into this, but then I will be here for an extended period of time. But this is not about that. This is about this. So remember, women are posting, they're taking little, you can get these in the Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Family Dollar, Walmart, Walgreens, wherever. You can get these stickies. As these posters is what they call them. And what women are doing is they're writing small notes to encourage one another, right? And it says again, no one will know who you vote for, right? Vote Harris. Vote for once. And not once, but women, and especially black women, have been carrying this democracy for such a long time since they were able to vote. Wow. And especially if you live in a red state. Mississippi, especially Mississippi, oh my God, that's one of the poorest states in the nation, And the people that you all keep voting back in the office, I can't think of the guy's name, but from Louisiana, but y'all keep voting this guy in, and you keep voting these people in, and you know that if you work at McDonald's in that state, that part of your Part of your federal dollars are going to pay for the Affordable Care Act, which if you live in Louisiana or Tennessee or Alabama or Georgia, like you're already paying for it, right? So all it is an extension of health care for people. You all are voting for people who refuse to give you health care that you are already paying for. You're already paying for it. They won't even let you have it. Your health. Your health. But y'all keep voting for these people. Why? That doesn't make sense. At least Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, decided to expand the Affordable Care Act for his citizens in their state. And guess what? Andy Beshear is a Democrat who is governor over a Republican state. Am I making sense here? So anyway, I just wanted to encourage women, put these up. I'm going to see if I can get us as men to just sort of fill some of these out and just, hand them out from time to time, because this is getting past ridiculous, everybody. It's time now to really just, we're past getting registered to vote, and we're now at the point now where if you are able to vote, to go do it. And if you're able to vote early, I don't know when you'll see this, but if you're able to still vote early, go out and vote early. Go out and vote early, get it done, get it over with, bank it, right? Things happen on election day. Emergencies happen. Family members get sick. Job calls, transportation breaks down. People don't show up who's supposed to come pick you up. The line is longer than you thought it was going to be when you went. Things just happen. And here's another thing that I think is ridiculous. Election day should be, or should I say the presidential election at least, it should be a national holiday. We should be off, those of us who are able to be, to go out and take care of that. That's how important that is. It shouldn't be something that you squeeze in, right? We're voting for our future. So anyway, I just thought I'd share that with you. And I do believe I encourage at least one person, I pray. I encourage one person, but everything that I've told you is true. So for those of you who watch Fox News and you listen to a lot of Republican stuff, there's a reason why some of you who are listening to me right now still think that Trump won the last election. And I feel sorry for y'all. I do. But you have to learn how to watch more than one thing. And I'll say this and I'm almost done. So in the mornings, I'll pray, right? And sometimes I'll set, like when I first thing I do when I get up in the morning, okay? So here's how I'm able to sort of balance what I'm watching versus what might be propaganda, what's too much leaning to the left, what's too much leaning to the right. How does one find that delicate balance of trying to understand exactly how things work and operate? Well, I'm going to try to explain to you the best way how I learn. When President Obama, I used to listen to, as I told you before, I got my start really listening to watching Fox News. I used to watch Hannity and Combs, right? That show when it came on. And then I would watch Bill O'Reilly, The O'Reilly Factor. I watched those shows faithfully every night. And I thought that, Republicans had some pretty good, issues to sort of talk about when it came to how they saw things and policies and things of that nature. And I also thought that the Democrats had some pretty good stuff. So I was always like right down the middle. But there was no place that I could go Democrat-wise to try and learn more about how things work on that end. There weren't any TV shows that, I wasn't really watching CNN at that time. I didn't know a whole lot. So, but the turning point came for me when President Barack Obama began to run for office. And then the rhetoric of Sean Hannity changed. And the rhetoric of Bill O'Reilly changed to the degree that I sat there and I said, wait a minute. It sounds almost as though y'all racist, because y'all are saying things in a dog whistle that I'm starting to pay attention to now that's not right. And what you're saying isn't right. And the way you're talking about Barack Obama isn't right, and it isn't fair, right? So I slowly got to the place where once he was elected, it got worse to the point where I couldn't watch it anymore. And then I watch some prominent pastors do the same thing. Joyce Meyer up on stage using scripture. And this is where, if you're not really studying the word and you don't know the word in terms of its intent and its meaning, and you allow people, we call it eisegete. She was eisegeting the text, right? Eisegete means that she's adding things into the scripture to make the scripture mean what she thinks that it should mean. And so I'm not the only one. So she started talking like that, and she started talking like that about the entire Democratic Party. She started talking like that about Barack Obama, President Obama at the time, and then followed by John Hagee, right? I used to watch him. Now, your question might be, why are you watching people? Because sometimes I'm just flipping. To me, these things did not have a color, right? I mean, I was trying to learn and I was trying to understand, and the way those individuals taught the word was really inspiring. So there's nothing wrong with watching those people, per se. If you understand when they get to certain places and certain things, you gotta have something up here to go, wait a minute, I don't know about that. And so John Hagee was another one, talking about poverty, and you're going, just if you could go back and during those years and listen to them eisegete the message, you'll hear exactly what I'm saying. So anyway, I moved off of those people, and I began to understand how the Bible and how politics and how we live today, how all that is Old Testament-ish, right? And I begin to understand that we're still living out the Bible, but in a different way. And that's another subject for another time. But my point is that now I watch Morning Joe. Morning Joe comes on at 5 a.m. So Joe Scarborough is a Republican, a former Republican, but his show is the most fair and balanced show to me on all of any news outlets. He has Democrats and Republicans both equally on his show, unpacking policy on both ends, talking about things that really matter to people. And even Joe Scarborough condemns the actions and has been condemning the actions of Donald Trump from the very beginning and his racism, right? Then during the daytime, most of the time I'll watch CNN, because as a veteran, when I was overseas for a little while, whenever we would go places, it was always CNN. If they wanted to know what was going on in the United States, for whatever reason, no matter where we went, the TVs were always on CNN. That is how I came to understand that the whole world watches the United States. But ironically, they watch it through CNN. They don't watch it through Fox News. So the rest of the world is saying, what is wrong with America? They see the stuff that Donald Trump is doing. They don't understand why we keep voting for this dude and putting people like that in power, followed by all the other Republicans who are sitting in office, right? Lindsey Graham and the rest of them, who continue to drink the Kool-Aid and support and hold up Donald Trump's arms, right? They do this, they encourage it. So, I also believe that now would be a great time for former President George W. Bush to come in front of the cameras. Don't release no statement, sir. You come out in front of those cameras. I know that you have a thing about being silent. And I think you call it, we owe them the dignity of our silence or something like that. I do understand what you're saying, because Donald Trump has thrown that mold out the window. As a former president, he was in the news all the time, venting and ranting, and the country could just never like, dude, go somewhere and deal with your legal issues, please, right? You tried to overthrow your own country. You're a traitor, right? You've got court cases in New York, you've got court cases in Florida, you've got court cases in DC, and in a minute you're about to have a court case in Arizona because you tried to steal the election there. So, why don't you just go deal with those things and allow the rest of the country to move forward? But as long as you have supporters who continue to be fed lies, right, that's going to be difficult. So the rest of us, unfortunately or fortunately, we have to rise up, and we have to say to fascism, we have to say to racism, we have to say to bigotry, we have to say through every mean and every mechanism that we possess, no to it all, no to Donald Trump, and no to this Republican Party. And each and every woman out there, your voice really matters. He is trying his best to do this bad boy thing where he's trying to drive up grievance among men, and especially white men. Come on, y'all know that's wrong. Y'all know that's wrong. And you all, as women, especially white women, you do understand that this is bad for y'all. Bad. All the progress that we've made as a country, and all the progress that you all have made as women, from voting to legislation to, just trying to get equal pay and all those things. Come on. If that's how he's going to win, what makes you think that he's gonna make life any better for you all? So, having said that, I want to encourage everybody to keep the trend going now and even after the election. Do it for the next election. Do it whenever. These posters are trending. And I'm going to read it again. It should say something like this. No one will know who you vote for. Vote Harris to protect women's rights. And having said that, vote Harris. Vote blue. You can do this, everybody. I have nothing but faith and love that you'll be able to do this. And I'm telling you right now that it is going to be a glorious day in the United States, because make no mistake about it, no matter who wins this election, this country will never be the same again. Never. Because if Donald Trump makes his way back to the Oval Office, he will never leave again. Never. If he sat in the Oval Office for over 2.5 hours, watching his supporters who had weapons break into the Capitol, right? That he sent them there. That was his last ditch effort. He had been trying other ways up until that point. And so the last thing that he was trying to do was, you know what? We're going to send that mob down there. Or they're mob now, but at that time they were supporters because they were unwittingly, to a degree. That's what I mean by that ecosystem. They for whatever reason, they kept believing everything that he said. So he sent them down there, knowing that they were armed. All this, everything that I'm telling you, some of the stuff has been released. And I think Judge Chuckin out of D.C., she unredacted some material for that court case. I do believe either in New York or maybe, I don't know about Florida, if they unredacted it there. But all this stuff is public knowledge, everybody. It's worse than what I'm describing here. I just don't have all the documents in front of me to sort of tell you, but I just know that when you saw, and if you don't, it's out there. You can go watch it. Even if you watch Fox News, just hit Google. Just Google January 6th. Just Google the video and watch it in its entirety. That's all you have to do. And even after that, if you still don't care, if you're still not moved, then guess what? The rest of us are going to go ahead and do what's right, and y'all can just go, we just push y'all to the side. Just let us know who you are so that when this election is over with and Kamala Harris beats the stuffing out of Donald Trump, that we remember who you are, so that you don't get to circle back around later and go, oh, well, I just didn't. No, you knew. It's too much of us out here trying to give correct information and the right information for those of y'all to keep coming along and act like y'all don't know the difference, or act like y'all don't know what's really going on, or act like it's just about policies when it's not. There are a slither of you all, like I just described, who fall in that category because you're being duped by the sources of news and information that you currently watch. And so that's why I'm trying to do everything I can to identify who y'all are, not just here, but in other ways and capacities, so that the rest of us know who y'all are. When this election is over with, we're going to know who you are. But make no mistake about it, that this election right here is going to change the United States of America forever. Because Donald Trump will not leave office. If he gets back in, he's not leaving. He did everything he could to prevent leaving the White House. And here's another thing that y'all need to know. The reason, and this is my opinion now, this is not a news source, but this is based upon the sources that I've read, right, and drawing this conclusion, because it's obvious. The reason why, when it was Inauguration Day, right, and normally you have what's called, it is a public display of the transfer of power, right? The first time that we really paid a whole lot of attention to it was when George W. Bush saluted President Obama as a ceremonial transition of power, and then you see George W. Bush and you see his wife, Laura Bush, enter into the helicopter, and then they fly off. And then you see President Obama at the Capitol on the stage with the rest of the country about to take power or taking power and moving into the direction of operating fully as the President of the United States. That is the symbolism that the whole world watches, because a lot of places in the world have dictators who don't like democracy. Why? Because if you are a dictator, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, President, anyway, President of China, right? Look, if you're one of those guys, you don't want your people seeing that. You don't have free and fair elections in your country. The last thing you want to see is President George W. Bush saluting a black man, saying, "Okay, I'm done. The Constitution says you now have power, and that's how it goes." And because if you're in that country, you go, "How come we don't do that here?" I'm tired of this guy, and there's nothing they can do about it. Nothing. Even when they have elections, they're rigged. The opponents are murdered and stuff like that. The journalists are kidnapped, thrown in jail, murdered. Right? That stuff happens, y'all. That's what Donald Trump wants to do here. He said it. But you won't see it or hear it if you watch Fox News and all you listen to is Republican radio. I can't do it because I can't sit through all those lies. It just, my blood pressure goes up. I just can't do it. I've tried. So for everybody who said you need to be more fair and balanced, I try. But you can't be fair and balanced if one of the parties they're not giving you facts, but they're feeding you propaganda and lies all the time. So I start off with Morning Joe, right? CNN all day. Now in the evenings, this is why I do this. When I can catch Rachel Maddow, I catch her because she's a journalist. Now she leans a lot to the left, but she is a great journalist. She brings you the facts, right? I also watch Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence O'Donnell used to work in the Senate. He's a former senator, I think, Senate congressman. But anyway, so he also wrote for the TV show The West Wing. He breaks down, right, the news from a voting perspective, how the Senate operates, how the House of Representatives operates, how many votes you need for this, how many votes you need for that, right? So that's why I watch him. He's a different type of host. Then Stephanie Rule with the 11th hour, which comes on at 10 Central, she took, what's his name? It'll come back to me, wow. But she took his place, right? The 11th hour, Brian Williams. She is more of a financial expert, but she is also able to speak to different topics and different things, but she also gives you an understanding money-wise how those things affect you and your bottom line. So I try to stay informed in those areas, but in particular, I watch some of those shows because I get a different perspective on the news in different areas from different people. You watch what you want to watch. Just make sure that when you watch it, that you're able to understand how to do the research on your own. And then I'll also Google and I'll say, is this story true? Let me go check the facts on this. Let me go check the facts on that. And I do it like that. So anyway, no one will know who you vote for, right? Vote for Harris. Women, use these post-its, stick them. I think they're saying they're putting them in the bathroom stalls. They're putting them in the bathroom windows, wherever women will see them. Beauty shops, right? Excuse me, beauty shops. They put these in beauty shops. Women. I think women are going to save our democracy, y'all. I just firmly believe that. So having said that, I just want to say thank you for spending time just listening to this. I never know who's going to listen to this. I never know who's going to watch this. I'm just doing it because this is the next evolution of what God is asking me to do. And this space right here is new. This podcasting / television space that I'm going to be operating in. All this is going to be brand new to me as I dip my toe in this atmosphere, in this arena just a little bit. So for those of you all who are very familiar with who I am and what I do, thank you all. I appreciate you all. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you all. For those of you all who are just discovering me, just understanding the many hats that I wear and the many things that I do in the industry and around it, stay right here. Like, share, subscribe. I am going to be, from time to time, it won't always be politics. It won't always be politics, I promise you. But there are going to be a lot of interesting people and a lot of interesting topics that I'm going to highlight and bring to you. And so my job is just to keep you encouraged, motivated, and uplifted. We got this, y'all. We got this. I know that's improper English, but I'm sorry. We got this. We got this. And with the help of women, I just know that a new day is upon us. We already know what Donald Trump has done in office, and he's already promised us and given us a glimpse into what he would do should he return. But I don't think that's going to happen. I believe that we're going to come together as a country. I believe that all of us are united for a common cause, and that is to move forward. And Vice President Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, as Vice President, are going to do a tremendous job in moving this country forward. They're going to do a tremendous job in helping to solidify not just women's rights, but women's pay. And what's good for women, I say this all the time, what's good for women is good for men, believe it or not, especially if you're married. What's good for your wife, man, is good for your family. If your wife was making just as much as you are, isn't that good for your family? If your wife is able to get the health care that she needs without having to go through bureaucracy, isn't that good for your family? Just common sense, right? Just common sense. So, go out when it's time and vote Harris Walz. Amen.